has been ordained for 35 years. She is CEO, founder, and steward of this wonderful economy of love that is St. Augustine's, Thistle Farms, and the Center for Contemplative Justice. So please help me welcome Becca Stevens with a round of applause.
It was hard to get dressed today because I do this, and then I go on a premarital counseling walk, and then I go get a crown put on my mouth. Oh. I know, so it's like I have to have comfy clothes, but not too nasty clothes. Anyways, what an honor to have you guys here, and I hope this is really a conversation. That's what I'm hoping. I have so much to learn, y'all have so much to give, so as we're doing this and doing the walkthrough, I hope that we have tons of time to talk and you can give me thoughts, we can share ideas, you might have something you want to say to each other. I'm very aware that we are all part of the same choir and that different ones of us will step out and do a solo, but we just need each other to do this. But it is an honor to have you here at Thistle Farms. And so I just want to give you a tiny bit of an orientation so you know where you are. Is that okay?
Yep.
And so where you are is the Center for Contemplative Justice. So 1997, out of that little A-frame we were in, we started Thistle Farms. So Thistle Farms started there. We manufactured there first in the little kitchen. That's where we were making the candles and the oils before we began needing a manufacturing space. In 2005, I realized that in order to keep growing all the different ministries, in addition to starting the 501c3 Thistle Farms, I started the Center for Contemplative Justice, and that did a lot of the oversee work that we were doing that didn't fit under the mission of Thistle Farms, but also would allow us to incubate new justice enterprises. So in other words, when we started working with the women in Ukraine, that's the first blanket they did in Ukraine after Russia invaded. And that's like the fifth or sixth one we started, but we have an entity so people can donate money to a 501c3 and we can be the fiscal sponsor for new ventures. So Love Welcomes, Love Rises, the school in Ecuador, the hospice in Botswana, the safe house in Botswana. We can start all those with a legal 501c entity. So this is that place. And the Center for Contemplative Justice started very, very small. This building we were in was the manufacturing space for Thistle Farms. Thistle Farms grew too big for this to be the manufacturing space. So we now have a space about 3 miles down the road that is probably 4 times bigger than this. Happy to drive anybody over there that wants to see it, but it's where all the machines are, and you stack and you have the distribution aisles for products all over the world. There's now 46 global partners in 21 countries. There's more than 80 sister organizations with 800 beds, long-term free beds for women survivors. So it went from a very small community in Nashville to really, we are starting a global movement for women's freedom. And the Episcopal Church has not taken near enough credit in the fact that what we do for women who are survivors of trafficking, incarceration, the fact that so many of our sister communities have ties to the Episcopal Church makes us the largest network for women survivors in the U.S. And the evangelicals take credit for just about everything. And the idea that they do all this outreach and out front work, and I wish that we could really say own the fact that our ministry to women who have been on the streets and incarcerated has changed the course of legislation, has changed language, has changed competency in direct services for women who are survivors. So you take something like in Omaha. Who was in Omaha? I can't remember. raise your hand there. Like in Omaha, that started, I don't know, 15 years ago. We were started with Trinity Church in Omaha. In New Orleans, we started with Eden House. That was our very first sister community. We went to St. Louis, we went to Chicago. Some of those have had troubles or merged with other organizations, but over and over again, all through the country, Oklahoma. I can't even think of all the different dioceses that are welcome in, but basically what happens is we become friends with dioceses and clergy, and then they have networks, and then all we do is support so they can start their ministry. So it's an affiliated network. It's not a franchise. So everybody has their own organization, but we come together and we do outreach, we do referrals, we do best practices. In other words, in our store, you'll see we have soap from the Franciscan Peacemakers who are in Wisconsin, who was one of our sister organizations that we helped them start their justice enterprise, or Hunt's Honey in Baltimore that we helped start their enterprise. Like, we can help with manufacturing and distribution, which is huge. So this became the space where we gather for all kinds of justice things. Yuri hosts so many groups here, Remix, a lot of, you did a training for 150 people in here about ICE intervention, is that right? We've done services here, we've done memorials here. I did my son's rehearsal dinner here. We do this can move around and do all kinds of things. The things that I think are notable is this is just the part, there's 12. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of a 12-part collection. We collect stories from women survivors, and they quilt their stories. These are from all over the world, and tie them together with, of course, the gold thread and the fire red. But it's a story about both the heartbreaking journey that so many women have been on, and the resilience and beauty of when we come together. But you should take your time and just contemplate those squares. It was inspired, of course, by the AIDS quilt, and we will bind them together. We take them to different fundraisers it becomes the backdrop for a lot of the stuff that we have going on. This wall here is the wall of Warrior and Poets painted by my husband, who he started it during COVID, and it's kind of a fun game, and we made it into a puzzle, but trying to match the person with just by their quote instead of their name is kind of fun, and you can look it up, and it's just a way to engage people into some of the basic concepts of some of the warriors and poets in the U.S. So it's a beautiful exercise for us. The other thing that this whole journey's been about, and what I want to say about women priests in general, and about our work together. It's so hard. This is a really bad mic, by the way. It's our mic, so I'm not criticizing Yuri. It's our mic. I'm just saying it's really bad. No one can hold this for an hour and a half like that. But the thing I want to say is some of the myths around priesthood and some of the truths, and how I've learned that through the work of Thistle Farms. That was what I was going to talk about. Is that okay? Yeah. So the first one is, give a woman a fish, feed her for a day, teach her how to fish, feed her for a lifetime. And what I've learned over and over through all this collective work for 30 years is women know how to fish. Women know how to break bread, right? Women know how to preach. Women know how to do all of the stuff. But the reason that it is important that we come together both to remember and to inspire, so we go back out and keep doing it, is that, first of all, we need tools to fish well. You know what I mean? Like, we know how to fish, but if you don't have decent poles, it's harder. And so if we don't have good pulpits and we don't have decent congregations with financial backing, it's harder to do this work that we've been called to do. And we need to, we need a way to have license to get to the lake. I was out in a beautiful village by Lake Victoria in Kenya, where the village makes its living fishing and it's illegal for women to fish. They just made it illegal. Why? You know why. Same reason that the Southern Baptists just said women, you're going to get banned if you allow women to preach. It's like it's always about control and domination and oppression and all of that. It's like, oh my gosh, we know how to fish, we just need the license. I know how to break bread, I just need the license. I need the blessing. That means something, because when you get the license, it also comes with health insurance. I wanted to preach, but I wanted health insurance too, which means I need the blessing of a church and a denomination and of an ecclesial body that's going to say, you have this right and you have a pension and all those things that comes with it. So it's not that I don't know how to fish, but I want a pension to go with fishing if I give my life to that. And then I need a good distribution system. I need a way to get my fish to the market. I need to get these ideas to a market, and that's a collective experience. So there's all these things, I think, that make it complicated to fish, even if I know how. But I don't need some dude saying, give a woman a fish. No, God bless you for being here. Give a woman a fish, feed her for a day, teach her how to fish for a lifetime. It's like, I know how to fish. I've known how to fish. You know how to fish. It's all that other stuff around it that we need to keep developing to respect the fishing abilities that are innate in us as children of God. The other saying is, and they give, this is credited to all kinds of people, all kinds of traditions, the old African proverb, on and on, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, travel together. And again, I think also for women, you better travel together. There's a reason we have been traveling. We need to organize and come together to travel at all. We're not going to go that fast alone. First of all, there's safety in numbers. There's a reason women go down to the river to wash their clothes together. It is dangerous to go down there by yourself, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. There always has been safety in numbers for women. If we do this together, if we go together, we're much more likely to get there. If we go alone, they may shut me down. If I go alone, I may experience fear and violence that I and you are familiar with from just living in this world. But if we go together, all of a sudden we are going down the street a little bit more confident. Nobody's going to bother us as much if we're together. But the other reason is there's another way of looking at it that I've learned through Thistle Farms, is that there is safety in another kind of numbers. Not just safety in a group of numbers, but safety in having economic stability and independence. There's safety in numbers. That's why we come together. That's why there's always been the sewing bee, this enterprise stuff that we do together, where we are practical and we are also experiencing community and all of that. And I have 1,000 examples of this, but I'll just try to keep it brief, is that all the data shows when we invest in women, we heal communities. When we rape women, we kill communities. That's all the data, any partisan data you want to pull up. If you invest in women, you heal whole communities. It's a together, it's numbers. And when you rape women, you kill community, you kill the numbers. Education, I'm talking about all the systems break down. It's why it's an instrument of war, for what it does. You've heard about the lost boys, right? You remember all those stories about the lost boys. How many stories did you hear about the lost girls? None. Do you know why? They were raped. And when they were raped, they got pregnant. They didn't get to immigrate. They never came to the U.S. They stayed on the border of Uganda and Kenya and Sudan. They stayed in those borders raising children in very fearful circumstances, many, many, many young girls. It was how they kept them under. So the idea of going back and saying, we need to make this right and work economically so these women have a chance now, have a chance to raise their children economically to make them safe is where we're headed with that. So over and over again, this idea of safety in numbers means this, is that as I have progressed as a priest, I have learned basically love is dogged. It does not care about dogmatics. You know, the dogma of theology is not as interesting as the doggedness of love. And the doggedness of love over and over calls me to be concerned about people's economic well-being for healing. So we have done a pretty good job in the U.S. and the church of talking about trauma-informed care now. That is not new information, right? You never hear about trauma-informed economics. We need trauma-informed economics for all these women who haven't found safety in numbers, both in groups and in economic terms. And you can't get well without that. I'm just saying y'all know this in your own lives. The stress of economics is unbelievable. And until we address that with people, they're not going to get feeling better and healing and part of a community. They are going to be in dangerous relationships, abusive relationships. They will sell what they need to sell. They will hustle what they need to hustle. That's just how it is in this world. And so that's why over and over again what I'm moving forward in love is the idea of a love economy. Like, I don't care what model of economics you want to put forth. If it's not grounded in this idea of love, of caring for one another, of being together in body, mind, and spirit with one another, it's going to fall apart. Capitalism, socialism, whatever it is, there has to be a love economic involved in this if we want this safety in numbers, if we want to travel far together. So for us, what I've developed are two things that I think are important. And the first one is we are not a social enterprise. Everything you see when you go to the shop, everything you see, it's not a social enterprise. Social enterprise is a big sphere, and what we are is a justice enterprise, which is a much smaller sphere. And that sphere is about being a mission with a business versus a business with a mission. We're a business with a mission. We're a mission with a business. And the mission is the workforce. So the most important thing is the workforce. Whether you make candles or whether you're making puzzles, that doesn't matter near as much as the idea of we are making something to ground ourselves economically to heal. So that's the first thing. And when you are a justice enterprise, all the margins change. You know how all the language starts making more sense about like margins? Like we serve the marginalized, and we have to be concerned about margins economically. In both ways, like all these words that I have started looking at, it's like, oh my gosh, that's where they got margins from. And margins make all the difference. The margins, in every sense of that word, make all the difference because you have to make your margins economically to survive, to scale and sustain. You have to. Like if I sell you a candle for $15, but it costs me $16 in training and labor to make it, I better not sell 1 million candles. But if I make $20 a candle and I'm paying women crap, who cares if I sell 1 million? The margins have to be right. The margins we serve economically. So in a justice enterprise, what we do is we reduce the links in the market chain to raise the value of the producer in that market chain, and that means we have to take smaller margins. And the other thing that's different is that the investment is huge in a justice enterprise. We are going up here today to experience the graduation of everyone in job readiness. That's a 6-month program. We've been paying people for 6 months and they've produced 0 candles, and half the people will not come and work at Thistle Farms. They'll work somewhere else. It's the investment. Because what we're really scaling and sustaining is community. That's a lot of information I just laid down there. But I just want to say that all of that is underpinning everything that you are going to experience, and it's underpinning my ideas of priesthood. And I hope it underpins some of your theology as well, that when you go into the world and into the marketplace, we bring our faith into it. We bring it. We are not afraid to see what love bears in the marketplace. We are unapologetic that we bring our values into the marketplace. And we say things like we care about margins, we care about sustainability, we care about the producers, the most undervalued people in that marketplace. And so if we want to love people, we have to figure out how that we are all valued in that, so we can travel far, so we can fish. There's a lot more sayings that I could dissect and mess up, but I really want to just tell one story and then take a break and let us talk together. And the story I want to tell is the story of how I keep learning in my priesthood and learning in this work how to understand the Gospels and do theology over and over again. The reason that it's so lucky, y'all know this, if you can't write a sermon, you need to go to prison, not a library. Right? It happens all the time. If you want to write a sermon, go spend a day in prison. That's all I can tell you. And that means whatever that prison is, whatever the confinement looks like. But one of the gifts of being a priest that is doing this justice enterprise work is that sermons kind of just write themselves. I'm just out there to go like this, thank you. Thank you. It's like low-hanging fruit, and it's like a way to see the Gospels over and over again. And it's happened 1,000 times. I mean, I've preached about Doris. Oh my God, how many times that I've preached and learned from you. I mean, at the National Convention I preached like 12 years ago at the National Convention of the Episcopal Church, and I told Doris' story. She's one of the great ambassadors. She's giving you a tour later on. She's a hero. But I'm just saying that it's like one of the perks of doing this work is, just feeling the gospel come to life all the time. So I love starting new enterprises. I love it. I'm working on one right now with a Kenyan woman named Christine, who I fell in love with because when she ever starts a group, she starts with the singing bowl, which always makes you fall in love with people when they're like, ding. And I'm like, how are you so peaceful? Because that is not my life. Anyway, she's starting a honey business. We've been working on it for 3 years. I'll be going a week from Saturday I'll be there. And it's with Maasai women who are beekeepers. How fun is that going to be? So fun. So anyway, I love doing that. And this was back in, 3 years ago. And we were working with a group in Bethlehem, Potters. And Rosh is the head of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love for us to make holy vessels made by holy hands from the Holy Land. That'd be so fun. And she was like, oh, that would be really fun. So she's part of this group of Christian Palestinian women. This is different than the woman I was talking about last night. This is a whole different group. And they've had a good business in Bethlehem because, the tourism in Bethlehem has been huge. So it was, and her husband manages, what's it called, The Walled? It's Banksy's hotel in Bethlehem. We were going to go and stay this past April there. Anyway, so this was 3 or 4 years ago. We started working with them, and then In the summer before October 7th, we had the conversation about starting the Palace and Chalices. Then October 7th happened, the war broke out. I never heard anything else. I got a call that winter that said, hey, you need to come to the dock at Thistle Farms. There's, crates of boxes here for you. And I'm of that age now, and some of you may be of this age now, where when you get a box from Amazon, it feels like a surprise. Like, oh my gosh, like you don't even remember what you ordered, so it is just this, like, I wonder what I got. Like, this is going to be so fun. And then you remember that it's not a present, it's something you ordered, and it's come. But I still love the experience of seeing an Amazon box or whatever I ordered from on the porch. This was crates on pallets. And I went to the dock to see what had I ordered. Like, I could not think of what I would have ordered. And it's like, like it's one thing when it's a box, it's another thing when it's, I don't know, 70, 80 boxes. And for the first time in my life, I noticed that the universal symbol for fragile was a chalice. On all the boxes, there was the chalice, all the way down. And as somebody who grew up thinking fragile is the worst word in the world, it dawned on me finally that we have the universal for fragile, and we call it our saving grace. It's our cup of salvation. What we hold as fragile, the universal symbol, is the cup of salvation. And that fragile doesn't mean do not touch. It just means handle with care. And that what I need to do, as I'm standing there watching it, was thinking, maybe it's the last tiny fragile pieces of myself that are my saving grace, the places that are still able to be molded like we talked about in Scripture last night. The places that have not been hardened by this world. Get there, open the first box, and realize it's all chalices and patens that have come from Bethlehem. And that I had never talked about a prototype or a price, but here they are. They're mine now. And that my job was going to be, to share these with friends in the world that want to break bread in this. So I called Rasha, who's the head potter there. I wish she was here so much. She's amazing, and she does not give up. She stays. And I called her, and she was in Athens at the time with her children, because they shut down schools. When all this bombing happens, it's not like all the Palestinian children go to school. It's over. So if you want to keep going to school, you have to leave with your kids during that part to get them to keep going to school. So Rasha was in Greece, and her kids are going to school in Greece, and I was like, I can't believe these came through a war zone, these fragile, just earthen vessels made it through. And we talked for a while, and I was like, well, how did you get out of there? And she said, well, I had to leave by the Jericho Road. And I was thinking about the Jericho Road in all of our lives, and I think of it in terms of really the whole history of women ordained in the Episcopal Church even, and how it's the dangerous road that is often the place that we remember how fragile we are and how much we need community to get to the other side. The Jericho Road made famous in my life, at least, by Martin Luther King speaking about it as, the bloody path, and how it was decent that who were the people that didn't stop? The priest and the Pharisee or something didn't stop? Because they said, what'll happen to me if I stop on this dangerous, fragile place? And it was the Samaritan who asked the right question, what will happen to him if I don't stop? But what Rasha reminds us, and what this journey of women going down that road of ordination was, is we were the guy in the ditch. At least I've been the guy in the ditch, and many, many women came to my rescue over the years to help. And I know that there's the myth of the Good Samaritan. It's not one person, it's a community. The first thing the Samaritan did was drop the guy in the ditch off at a hotel for somebody else to feed him water. And he wasn't a healer because he was putting wine on an open wound. You know, it's a community effort. But I think for all of us to remember, it's not just this pie-in-the-sky theology. There's dangerous roads. There are fragile women out there. And the parts of us that are fragile as well can remember the gratitude we have for the people who stopped for us along the way, the women pioneers who did that for us. And I hope we continue to do that for the next generation of women. This is the paten, if you want to see it. This is the chalice that Rasha and her team have designed and made for us. So, thank you very much for listening, and let's have now more of a conversation and your thoughts. Just add to it what's coming up for you, and we can do anything you want. And this is Kristen, everybody.
Hi, Kristen.
Kristen is